everyone, and welcome back to New Breakpoint. My name is Michelle Sandford, and I am a developer engagement lead for Microsoft. I am super excited to be your host for Season 3. And for those of you that have never tuned in before, you should know this is a series for developers by developers, and we are going to be talking all things code. The show will be live streamed the second Thursday of every month with a small break over Christmas. Each hour-long episode will include a Q&A. Why tune in, you ask? Well, not only will we dive deep into all the latest developer updates, new technologies, and everything interesting in the world of tech, but you'll be able to connect to other people in the developer ecosystem, and we would love you to be part of our community. Today, we'll be picking up where we left off in Season 2 with GitHub's Developer Advocate, Damien Brady. So I have with me today Mish Mannering, who is going to continue that conversation and tell us how the world of GitHub has changed since last season. Mish is a super legendary hackathon queen, Twitch streamer, developer advocate, as I said, and international conference speaker. GitHub has revolutionized the developer experience, and we're going to be chatting today about all the exciting new things to hit the developer ecosystem since Damien was with us last. We're talking about GitHub CoPilot chat, games, bytes, and release radar, and maybe we'll have a little bit of code spaces in there as well. Let's kick off by welcoming Mish Mannering. So Mish, thanks for joining us today. You can maybe talk through what you're going to be showcasing today.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Really excited to be here today, and what a wonderful introduction. Thank you for that. I'm so pumped to show you all the awesome things that GitHub has been releasing and all the updates they've been doing as well. We'll be talking some gaming, open source, GitHub CoPilot, as you mentioned, some code spaces as well, and some of the awesome new updates we have. So really looking forward to it.
Do you have a preference where we start, or can I pick anything?
You can pick any topic you like.
Well, I was kind of torn between Release Radar and Game Bytes, but maybe let's start with Release Radar.
Yeah, sure. So Release Radar is an open source blog that we put out every single month where we showcase some of the, not just the top open source projects, but some of the up and coming open source projects. So they're everything from big open source projects like Kubernetes down to smaller hobby projects, weekend projects, and things like that. So each month we showcase some of the latest updates and releases from the open source community. So this includes major version updates, whether it's a new release of a version 1 or a version 27. And we put this out every month, and we actually go out to the community for this as well. So I'll show you what it looks like. So if we head to our GitHub repository, Release Radar, .github.com, you can have a look at our online repository here, and here you can actually submit for yourself as well. So here, if you have a project that's shipping a major version update soon, whether you're the maintainer on the project, you're part of the core team, or it's something you've just worked on, we'd love to hear from you. So you can head here and you can submit your project for consideration, and I handpick some of my favorites, and some of the GitHub staff handpick some of our favorites, and we showcase them. So what does that look like? That looks like here. So if we go to Release Radar here, this will pull up all the release radars we've done over the years. So this is super fun. I love the fact that we showcase this. Well, it's usually every month. I did a spring edition because we got so busy with conferences and traveling the world and speaking in events that we just pulled all our favorite ones for spring. And yes, that is American spring. I know we're here in Australia and I'm in Australia, but it is Northern Hemisphere spring. So it's more of the Southern Hemisphere. What would that be? The opposite to autumn, I guess. So it was more our autumn, or as the Americans say, fall. And this was really fun to put this on together for all the different things that people were releasing over the springtime. We've just released the July radar. So we release them usually the first or second week of the month for the prior month. So, for example, the July radar we showcased the OctaKit, which is the GitHub API. So if you're working with the GitHub API, we've just released a brand new version of that. It also supports the latest version of Node and has the minimum support now for Node 14 or Node.js 14. And we have some great, really fun things here as well. So we've got an audio visualization tool here. We've got some natural language processing. There's lots of AI things coming into the fray with open source. So this is really great to showcase some of these awesome AI projects. So we've showcased a few of them over the months as well. So I highly encourage you to check that out. Remotion is a really fun open source video production system where you can kind of use Rust to like embed videos and things like that and build videos, which is really awesome. So you can see here we've got a whole bunch of different things as well. We've got everything from finance to Kubernetes projects and more. So the release rate is just a fun way for us to showcase what awesome people like yourselves are doing in the community. So if you do have an open source project, please submit because we do want to feature you.
Yeah, I was looking at it this morning and I was reading all that stuff about Remotion, and I was interested to see that it was built on Rust because we've just started a Rust community in Perth and we're really excited about it. So yeah, I'm loving seeing it everywhere. I also noticed it in Game Bytes as well.
Yeah. So I suppose you want me to talk about Game Bytes next.
Well, you could.
Yeah, so I'm the one who puts together Release Radar, which is as I said, a collection of open source projects every month. And we've also just started doing Game Bytes, which is a collection of all the awesome things happening, not all, but a hand-picked few of the awesome things happening in the gaming community every month. Michelle kind of said I'm a Twitch streamer, so I love video gaming and I love showcasing some of the cool things that game developers are actually putting together. So Game Bytes is something that one of my teammates, Lee Riley, has put together, and it's really fun. So if we have a look at the latest edition, there's only been a few editions so far, like literally brand new. We just started it or launched it in April. So April, May, June, and July here. So it's all different things are happening, like latest game updates for game developers, maybe some of the latest games that are being produced by game developers, but also a really fun one for a lot of people is what are the upcoming or the current game jams that you can actually participate in. So you can see in our July one, we've got Lee Riley's put here, it's like Engine Watch, which is like, are there any updates happening to some of the most popular game engines? Now, obviously, there's Unity and Unreal are like the two big ones, but there's actually lots of different game engines from both open source right through. So he's put together a few things here. Like the first one he's got is Godot, so a little bit of updates to Godot there. Bevy engine, which is Rust, as Michelle mentioned, she's like enjoying Rust. So I've got Rust on there. I've got JavaScript as well, or Java, sorry. And then, yeah, he's putting together a bunch of different things. So this one here is a game that the community has put together. So he's put this here. Lee also loves games. So you can see that the way he writes the post, so you can tell he's a gamer, and I absolutely love it. So he's got some different things here, different games that are coming out that people have got. He's also got little buttons to download them, check out the source code and play them, which is fun. And then we've got like different things too. So we don't just have game engines in open source. We have lots of tools, plugins, modifications and things like that. So he collates all those together and puts them all together, which is really, really fun. This is the one I wanted to show you, some of the upcoming game jams. So we've got a couple that are running at the moment. GDev Game Jam has just finished last week, so hopefully the results of that will come out soon. JS13K Games is actually running right now, and this is a really, really fun competition where people have to build games using HTML5 and JavaScript, and it can be any game. It has to fit within the theme, though, of the year, I think. And I can't remember what this year's theme is after a look. Usually there's a theme each year that you've got to stick to, but the biggest catch for this competition is JS13K Games. So the games you build for this competition has to be 13 kilobytes or less, which is insane. If you think about how big games are today, like I literally just downloaded Forza the other day. It was like 170 gigabytes on disk. So being able to put together a game that's 13 kilobytes or less with assets, things like graphics and animation and music and stuff is just awesome. And the fact that people do it every year is just blows my mind. So I'm a judge for this. So please submit. I'd love to see and play your games. And then we have the GitHub Game Off, which is happening throughout November. And then it finishes in December. And we announce the good thing about this is there's no judges. There's winners. But if you submit a game, you then become a judge as well. So you submit a game. It can be any game, any platform, any engine. It just has to fit within the theme, which is cool. And then, you get to play everyone else's games and judge all the games too. It's a really great way to showcase yourself if you're a game developer, which is awesome that GitHub has these types of things for game developers. I feel like a lot of game developers don't get the spotlight a lot. So for us to be able to put this on for you is really special, and I hope you all take advantage of it.
So you have to build a game to judge a game.
Basically, yeah.
So all the game devs are going to put their games in, they'll judge each other's games, play each other's games, and it's kind of like so I guess the games that win are the games that game developers think are best. So it's
exactly.
being judged by your peers. That's pretty cool.
Well, I can give you actually a couple of little sneaky hints right now. A lot of people say, what do people look like, when they judge, or what are people looking for when they judge games? I'm looking for things like how smooth is the gameplay, how intuitive is the gameplay. So in a lot of ways, I purposely don't read instructions because I want to see how intuitive the game is to pick up, how intuitive are the controls. I'm a gamer, so picking up a keyboard and mouse, picking up a controller is very natural for me, and being able to do the movements that would feel like they're game movements, it just feels natural. So those types of things. And if you have a narrative, if you have assets, how quickly are things loading? How easily does the game flow? So things like that. But, there's a whole bunch of other ones. They're just a few little tips there for you.
Well, I'm a terrible gamer, but I've always felt super welcome in the gaming community because they love how terrible I am at it. When they watch me playing games, they're like, oh, now we see what people are going to struggle with.
So last year I did a stream from one of the games. It was either JS13K Games or the GitHub Game Jam. And I swear, I think I died 50 times on the first level. So my feedback was make the first level not diable so that people can actually get the tutorial right. But then I was like, wow, I must be really bad. I got there, and then the next few levels were a breeze, but just it was really funny. Lee Riley put together, who does the game bites, he put together a little gif of try 1, try 2, try 26, try 525. Just can't get going. It became this bit of a meme within the community, but it was super fun. And that was actually the game. Pretty sure it was the GitHub Game Jam, and it was the game that won overall best game, and it was very good. But I was like, you just need to make sure that people can get the controls right for the first game. So make your game. That's another big tip for you. If you've got levels, don't allow people to die in the first level. Help them through the tutorial.
Well, I suppose that's a really marvelous thing about GitHub. You can look at other people's code. You can look at code for other games, and you can try and get some ideas of the best way to build it out from the start for when you're building your own game. And I know that a lot of game devs, it isn't their main job. They're developers in other industries during the day, and they make games for fun at night. But it's a very different kind of coding, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I actually have a talk on GitHub and gaming. I did it at Render ATL, and I'm doing it in Copenhagen Developers Festival next week. So yeah, and you already said game coding or game development is very different to just normal software development. Also, there's a lot of issues and things with source control around gaming and things like that. So I won't spoil it for you. The recording of that will be available later. So.
Probably by the time we come out with this, it'll be ready.
Will be.
Awesome. Okay, well, why don't we go into some real code? Because I know that my favorite and your favorite is the CoPilot chat. Can we have a look at that next?
Oh, we can actually. So I've actually been doing some GitHub CoPilot chat this week on stream. It's been really, really fun. I've been playing around a lot with it, and it's just been really, really awesome. So you'll see here 2023 Mission Max. So yes, I just got engaged, which is really exciting. And I have been using GitHub Copilot. You see there, our wedding date is the 9th of December this year. So it is very close. Like literally just got engaged like 2 weeks ago, and our wedding is this year. But yeah, I use GitHub Copilot chat, and also, maybe a senior developer as well. But I've been using GitHub Copilot chat to build my wedding website. And it has been so good. Like my fiance came home and he's like, how did you build the whole website in like less than a day? And I'm like, GitHub Copilot, and GitHub Copilot chat. It's so good. And what I like about it, one thing I like about it is, I built this Monday last week. And if I scroll up, I can see all the history of what I've been talking to a GitHub Copilot chat. So, one of the first things I asked it was, how do I build a wedding website? And it was like, sure, what are the requirements for your site? What do you want this? What do you like that? And if you have a look at some of my Twitter posts, they were hilarious. I was like, hey, GitHub Copilot, what's a better word for no? Because I was trying to think of some better thing. It's like, sorry, I can only help you with coding questions. I was like, okay, that's fine. You can only do code. And then like 10 minutes later, I asked it about like RSVPs. It's like, here's the information you need to include for an RSVP for a wedding. So I'm like, you do know more things about things and codes.
It likes to pretend that it's very professional and it only wants to talk about developer stuff. But once it gets into it, it can talk about more stuff. I've definitely seen that.
It is so good, right? And so the fact I can come back into a session, look at what I was doing. So here I asked it, how to make my site more mobile responsive. It's like, here you go. You can use some CSS media queries, and that's what I've been doing. Back here, hasn't all been working, 100%. That's more my fault rather than GitHub Copilot's. But let's do something that I've actually wanted to do for this website, which is So I've been sharing this around just for a couple of people just to, do some reviews and stuff for the website. And one thing I noticed was that there was no metadata for the website. So if I ask GitHub Copilot to add some metadata, let's see what it says. So how do I add metadata to my website? Give me a response. Here we go. Yep. Perfect. Okay, so it's giving me it's actually giving me quite a lot here. Wow. Okay, it's giving me heaps. So if we scroll back up, so it's saying, okay, to add metadata to web, so you can use the meta tags. Is like the tags is, what you need for the metadata. And it's saying here are some common things like character set. I like this because it doesn't just give you the chunk of code. It actually explains to you what the code is doing. So when I was doing all this, I'm like, I learned so much about GitHub Copilot. Now, it's not always 100% correct. It is still a learning system. It doesn't know everything. And at the end of the day, you're also responsible for the output you put. So like when it wasn't working, I'm like, we'll just blame GitHub Copilot. But obviously I was joking. So I'm like, you can't just blame the AI, right? You're still responsible for the output of code. You've actually got to review it and, things like that. So, but it is great the fact that it does this, which is explaining. So it'll say here too, like, viewport specifies a viewport setting for mobile devices. Description provides a brief description of the content page, and it even gives you an example, which is cool. And these are, you can notice here, these are all like little code chunks. So you can either copy the code like that. So that's copied to my clipboard now. Or I can even do here. So what I like is this too, which is to add the meta tags, simply add them in the head section of the website like this. So it's like got everything just like plonked in here, right? But what I could do is if I scroll to the top here, so we want to add it into the head, and then we can add it just in the top here. So I like to write.
Do you, where it's giving you all of those instructions around meta tags, and maybe you've never used them before, is it only telling you stuff to put into the file that you have open right there in your code window? Or might it be referring to several files that you have?
It could be referring to several files. It'll also say other things too. So let me just plonk this in real quick just to show you what it does. So for example, if I wanted this, I could just go like that and it goes cool. So it just copies or pastes the code into where your cursor is. I'm just going to delete that for the moment though, because I want to add a slightly different metadata. But say for example, so Michelle's just asking things like, does it refer to a piece of code. So it's actually, so GitHub Copilot is able to look at the whole like project that's open. So say if I say, look, actually this is a good one. So GitHub Copilot also tries to help you along the way by suggesting the next answer you should give. So if I did that, like how to optimize images, so it says, here you go, you can resize this, you can do this, give me, and then here, how do I minify my CSS and JavaScript files? Now, I don't have them, they're up here on the tabs, but I don't have them, like it's not on the screen right now. So if I did that, it's still going to give me information about things I can change in my CSS and JavaScript. Now, it's also, this is giving me a lot of like information, but what if I said like, how do I add dark mode to my website? Let's see what this does. This is something I've actually been working on at the moment. So there you go. It says create a file that does, called dark CSS, and I do have on there, and it's giving me some of the code. So I even tell you things like create a file or do this, and then like here you go, get this working. I'm getting there with this. It's not quite working yet, but and then it says even here like add the media query to the switches, and I can even say things like this, like right now I just added like a preloader to my website, and you can see that here, this preloader start, I've actually commented out because it's not working. But if I said like, why is my preloader working, but my website is not loading? I can even do things like this. Now, again, it's not always going to be 100% like right and correct, but the fact that it gives you a whole lot of information is actually pretty cool. So I like check the console log, which is a great thing to do. So it's not just specifically code. So it can tell you things that around your code, like how do I fix this? How do I do this? It's saying like check the HTML and say make sure your code is valid and error free. So if I did one too, it was like, check to see if the ID tag. So I said, how do I check to see if I have the correct ID attributes? This is the other thing with, using AI systems, right? You've got to know like what to actually ask and the right things to ask. So if you're getting errors and stuff and you're like, why is it not giving me the right thing? It's usually probably because you're not asking the right questions, right? So I often use the example about like, Google. So if you just Googled pineapple, Google is probably going to throw a whole lot of, websites, images and stuff of pineapples. But if you were looking for a recipe for a pineapple upside down cake, you're probably not going to find it amongst all that because you haven't really asked for that. So if you said to Google, provide me with a cake recipe for a dessert using pineapple, or provide me a recipe for a dessert using pineapple in a cake, it'll probably give you a pineapple cake if you didn't know exactly what you're asking for. So people will say like, well, I don't actually know the name of the thing I'm trying to ask for. And that's fine. What you need to do is be more descriptive about what you asked for. So if I said to Michelle as well, like, hey, Michelle, like, I'm just trying to think like what's good. How do I get started with coding? You're probably going to say to me, okay, well, what type of coding would you like to do? What are you interested in? What do you want to do it for? So as people, when we ask questions, there's usually follow-up questions to understand exactly what we're trying to like understand and get at. And GitHub Copilot and other AI tools are the same in a way, but they're just not going to always ask you the questions back. GitHub Copilot's a little bit better at this. So if I said, hey, I want to build a, we've been talking about gaming, so I want to build a game. It's probably going to say, okay, cool. So instead of just providing me with code to start, this is what I love about GitHub Copilot. So it's asking questions. Okay, that's great. What kind of game are you interested in building? There are lots of types of games. Here are some general steps you can follow. Choose an engine, plan your game, build the mechanics, create the asset, build the levels, test and refine, publish the game. So, it's providing you with all this back and forth a little bit to try and understand what you mean. And that's what I think is really great about this. There's some really great articles that Roselle, one of my colleagues and myself have put together, and a few other GitHub people about prompt engineering for GitHub Copilot. So, asking it the right prompts, refining the questions you're asking to get the exact, the answers you want. So It's pretty cool, and I highly recommend you checking out that if you're using an AI and just not quite getting those, the answers you want.
So if you were a good Googler or Binger before
I should say Bing,
age,
hey.
well, yeah, before this age, you will probably be a good prompt engineer now, because your mind has always thought around what is the best way to get the answers that I want, but this takes it to a whole new level now, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I mean, I'm also working a lot in startups and things. We call things like human-centered design, or experiential design, which is that whole concept going back to Henry Ford, right? So Henry Ford, the guy who invented, the car, if he had kept going around asking people what they wanted, they would have said, I want a faster horse. Instead, he was trying to infer what people actually wanted and understand what people needed. And what he realized is that people wanted a faster way to get from A to B. And he's like, okay, well, horse isn't going to cut that. We don't need that. So if people had given people what they asked for, a lot of things just wouldn't have happened in the world. And it's the same thing with GitHub CoPilot and many AIs. If they're giving you unfortunately, they're not humans, right? They can't infer and understand what you actually want. So you have to be better at asking questions. So, if Henry Ford had have asked people who really understood their own problems, they would have said, I need a faster way to get from my house to work. I need a faster way to transport goods from A to B. And then he would have gone, cool, let's do that. Luckily, Henry Ford and some other brilliant minds are able to infer what people are talking about. GitHub Copilot is not the same in that sense. It does make a lot of inferences and it's pretty good, but you have to ask the right questions.
Yeah, and you can redirect it. So sometimes it's, predicting what you want, but then when you get it, it's really not what you wanted at all. Like when I first had access to the chat, I was trying to build a game, and I built the game in Python, which is my favorite language. And then I thought this would be really good if I did it in JavaScript as well, because I like to use Python, super simple language, really straightforward, really clear to me. But I also like to learn a bit more about JavaScript, especially if I'm going to be doing front end stuff. So I asked it to write the same game for me in JavaScript. When I tried to run it in the same way, it didn't work. And I said, why is that? And it said, it's JavaScript. It will run in the browser, not in the terminal. And that's, of course, that makes sense. As I said, front-end web stuff, it would normally run in the browser, but I know that you can write JavaScript to run in the terminal. So I said, could you rewrite it to run in the terminal? And it said it could, and it did that, and it ran. And it's just really helpful to me when I'm trying to learn more about coding to be able to see comparison in different languages. And I love that Copilot Chat is helping me do that. And obviously, in that case, that was a real simple game. That wouldn't work if it was a really complex game, as you're kind of discovering with the website, the more complex and the more things that you want, the more you really need to understand how you want it to be and how those things could change the overall so that you can ask it the right questions to help you.
Definitely. And it also doesn't always give you the best way to do something. So, we know too that people there's a bazillion, debates about, I'm just doing front end here. So there's a heap of debates about, do you use tabs or spaces? How do you assign it a div? So everyone has their own preferences of doing stuff. And so when I was doing GitHub Copilot on Friday with a senior developer, there's a few times where they're like, no, let's not do it that way. Let's do it this way. This is a better way to do it. So, having those eyes of someone who's very experienced in their job and has a lot of experience doing this will often do it better. And again, I'm a very curious person. So I always say, why is that a better way to do it that way? And why is it a better way to do that way? And it's not always 100% correct, right? Because it doesn't know everything. It's kind of like, again, I mentor a lot of startups, right? So if I say something to a startup and I'm giving them some mentoring, I'm not always going to be 100% correct. And that's one of the first things I tell anyone I mentor. I say, look, I only know so much. I don't know everything. The other thing is, you know your startup and your company better than anyone else. any advice I give you is only advice. You need to take that advice, whether it's from me, other people, whoever, collate that all together and decide what you think is best based on your own experience and based on where you know that you want the company to go. The same thing with building a website. GitHub Copilot, while you think it might, it can't actually read your mind. So it doesn't know exactly the vision you have for doing something. It is only providing you suggestions and ideas that you can either, take or not. Same thing as working with, someone else, a developer. They're not always going to have the best answers for you and the right answers for you. But they'll have answers for you, and it's your job to take what you want and provide that, which is why, again, we say the whole, you can't blame GitHub Copilot for anything. You are responsible for what you output at the end of the day.
Well, do you know, that was before I had CoPilot chat. When I just had CoPilot, it was more of a sort of, predictive text on my code as I was typing ahead. But the thing that I really liked was I would do that with, is it Control Shift and Enter? Is that to produce the 10 samples?
Yeah. So if I go here and I want, I think I disabled this. There we go. So if I want, let's see if that's working for me. Get up Copilot down the bottom there. So if I do that, it should give me, it's playing up a little bit because it's so...
I think it doesn't like it that much when you have Copilot chat at the same time. It feels like it's competing with itself.
Yeah, so if I go Control Shift, what was it? I think it's just Control Enter. Yeah, there you go. So it's synthesizing different solutions for me. So it's giving me a few different things. It'll synthesize up to 10 different solutions. So this gives you more than one idea of how to actually do things. So here it's got view twice with it. It hasn't, this one's a little bit different. So it's giving me more metadata there. And this one here, Mission Max's wedding, it's giving you all the keywords and things as well as a bit more SEO. Again, a couple of different ideas, something with nothing, in it here, a few more things. This one's up a little bit better. It's got the social media metadata and stuff as well, which I actually do want to input. So if I wanted to do that one, actually, I really like that one. That actually probably done with a bit. Oh, this one's pretty good too. So it's giving me everything here, which this looks really good because I'd probably want to do it more like that with all the different, and then this on OG and Twitter. Okay, so say if we wanted this one, it's funny how I keep saying Twitter too instead of X. So say if I like this one, instead of having to copy and paste, I could just go, I like that one. I'm going to accept that solution. It goes plonk and puts all that in there. So that's pretty cool, right? That it actually does, it does all that, which is really nice. If I wanted something else, I could just backspace and just bring it up again. It's obviously going to synthesize those solutions again. But yeah, I literally just did a video on this, actually, this synthesizing solutions, because not everyone knew about it. And the fact that it can provide you with a few different responses is a great thing. So when you're just getting the ghost text popping up, which is not quite happening at the moment, it's having a bit of a hissy fix. My file's a bit too big, and I know I've got Copilot chat open at the same time. It only gives me one suggestion, usually the first suggestion that it thinks of. But as we know, there's more than one way of doing things.
Well, yeah, what I liked about the 10 solutions initially was I would, ask for that, and then it would show me the 10, and I would pick the one that was closest to the code I would have written if I could have been bothered to think about it. But now what I look for is the best piece of code in those 10 samples. Which one is cleaner, shorter, quicker? And in the past, I wouldn't have used that code because I didn't understand it. It's not the way my mind thinks. But now I just highlight that and then I ask Copilot chat to explain the code for me, and it does. And then I can use that code because I understand how it works. I understand what it's trying to achieve, and it's just like magic.
Yeah. So for example, I'm not very good at JavaScript, and I've got this script on the screen. So if I said, explain the code on screen, it'd probably tell me it's a JavaScript file that contains several functions for adding various features to the website. So the preload adds a preload that displays all the pages loading once the preload is removed. Smooth scroll adds smooth scroll into the website. So if a user clicks on a link, it's just explaining all the different things. So you can see here I've got smooth scroll, scroll over navigation, scroll top, parallax. It's explained every single one, which is crazy. I really love the fact that it does this. And like, again, you learn so much from doing this. Again, not always 100% correct though. So I've got a form on my site that says, please RSVP, tell us how many people are coming. And I was like, okay, it hasn't actually set a number in the number thing. And because I have an ID attribute as number, I was like, okay, this is obviously a number, but I was like, what's the minimum maximum? And I asked GitHub Copilot, how do I add a minimum maximum to this box? And if I don't add a minimum or maximum, what are the default values? And it got it kind of not exactly right. So, and I only learnt this because I tweeted it and someone responded, Phil Nash actually from Sonar responded and was like, oh, it's actually not quite right. So GitHub Copilot said, you need to put a min equals, 0, and that'll be your minimum. If you don't add anything, the default will be 1. I was like, okay, well, I want people to be able to add 0 because if they don't have any kids coming, I don't need to, they don't have a kid, there's 0. But if you don't, but the correct answer is if you don't add a minimum maximum, the default is any value. So negative infinity to positive infinity. So it could be any negative or positive number, including 0. So it wasn't quite right, but it still gave me enough information that I set the minimum value anyway. So yeah, you still learn.
I realise we could talk about this all day, Mish. There's so much in there and it's so much fun. So yes, if you haven't tried it, then get in there and get amongst it. Mish, what can you tell us about GitHub projects? I have not had a chance yet to delve into that, but I know that you're using it every day.
Yeah, so GitHub projects has probably had some of the biggest updates. It's been so fun. Whenever I talk about projects, actually, you see my project boards here. I use projects for everything from, planning our wedding to moving house and all these kind of things. This is the more fun one. So a lot of people don't even realize we have GitHub projects. So GitHub projects is kind of like that Kanban board style, Kanban. I always say this wrong. People always like, it depends on where you come from as well. I'm just Aussie and I'm just going to put a real Aussie accent, Kanban boards. So it's like a Kanban board style where you can have all your different columns for, here you can see how I've changed it, but obviously a lot of your standard ones is like, to do, in progress, done, you might have different sprint tracks and things like that. Now I can use GitHub projects for basically anything. So here I've actually used GitHub projects to move my house. And the way I kind of structured it was, we bought a house probably about like 4 months before we moved in. So I tracked it based on time. So, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, the day before, the day after, these kinds of things. So, and the great thing about GitHub projects, so we're kind of moving towards calling it planning and tracking. So because we feel like projects doesn't quite encompass everything that GitHub projects actually does. It does everything to do with planning and tracking. So if I have a look here, this is like my major planning tracking issue, right? And all I did for this is literally just open up an issue with a bunch of tasks, and then I could go through and actually create a new task, for every single thing, which opened up a new issue. So let me show you what that looks like. Actually, if I just go to my not my fake, but my demo repository, GitHub Like a Boss, because that's what we do. So if I go here and so this is all part of planning and tracking now. So if I go create a new issue and go, let's just open a blank issue, and I say, this is my new project. And if I say things like, main tracking, so for a project, we probably need to, get the right people on board, delegate, whoops, I can't spell, delegate tasks, create, let's just say we're opening up a website. So let's just go, purchase domain. I'm just making all these up, write code, plug into website, tracking details. I'm literally just making all those up. So say that's what we want to write. Now they'd probably be a little bit, more project-like, but for all purposes of this, it's fine. So if I go, okay, let's just, all we need to do is now just like click these buttons on the side here, and we can literally just go and convert all these things to an issue. We can assign ourselves, we can add labels as well. Let's just go, this one's going to be an enhancement. So that's cool. So we've got a couple labels there. So we create that issue. I can go this. There we go, it's a little bit faster now. My internet's a little bit slow when I'm trying to do like a million things on it, but it's not too bad. We do have NBN now, so it's great. So we go here. Look, I've just created all those issues now, which is awesome. So each one of these things is its own little thing. Just open it as blank with no description. I can like edit this and go, find the A team, get awesome people. Cool. And let's just delegate that to me because that's me. Now, what I could do now is, if I say I found the right people, so I got Michelle Sandford on board. Sweet. And sweet, she's the only person I need for this team because she's awesome. She can do everything. Now I've closed this issue as completed. If I go back to my main tracking issue, this is marked as done, and it ticked it because over here it's complete. So these like new little bits and pieces of planning and tracking are amazing. Now, if I wanted to create, a project board for this, and I've already got like a demo one here. So let's just go here. Now, it's got a few things on it, but say I wanted to add all those items that I just created. I'm going to go to a table view because it's much easier to do this. Now, if I just go click plus and I go, okay, well, I want to add items from this repository. I want to add all those issues I just opened. So I can just go bang, 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 bang. Yeah, all those are good. We'll add some of these pull requests into, why not? Put all those there and they go plog. They are now on project board. There we go. All that, which is great. You can see like I've got like little columns here for assignees. I can add whatever buttons I can add labels. I can link them to pull requests. I can add all their reviewers. I can name the repository that they're part of and all these kinds of things. So this is really easy to do. Now, what I've done here is I've created two views. So this is a table view and this is like the board view. Now, obviously, we just added these things. But if I move them around, this is cool. Now, if I like go to here and I open it up and I can see here, so it's got status. So it starts adding all these things. So now if I opened up this issue wherever, I can see now that it is linked to this project. It has a status of cool things to keep up with. I can see it's on the demo board. Now, the great thing about project boards is you can add multiple issues from all different repositories. So say, for example, my wedding. So our wedding repository, our wedding project has all the tracking issues for the wedding and all the things that need to happen. But I also added in my issues, my bridal repository. Now, because the bridal repository is separate from my fiance's, because I didn't want him being able to see my bridal dress and stuff, he can see that card is on the project, but he can't go in and click it and see what my dress looks like. So you can have things on projects that are like from all different repositories, and it depends on the status of how you've set your teammates. So obviously for our overall wedding planning repository, it is private, but me and my fiance are both on there. But my wedding bridal one, it's just me. So only I can see those issues. He can just see, the name that it's there. So that's what's really great about if you're working, with people outside your organization or across your team. You're able to do all these really cool things. You're able to set the, the view and the edit status and all that kind of thing. The other really cool new thing that we added recently, so I've set up all these like different views along the top here. You can create a new view, however, and then, like if I go here and I start changing a new thing. So say I go, let's say I don't want all these fields. I don't want the status. I want labels instead. See, I've got this little blue dot here. That means that view is not saved. So now if I save that view, it's now saved as view 14. The great thing about that is it's got its own special URL up the top here. I mean, you can't see the URL, but I can grab that URL and I can share that just with Michelle if I wanted. The other thing is if I change it, so say I only wanted to share Michelle the things that only she is assigned to, and I did this with my fiance actually when we decided this. I'll just delete that view for a sec. I created a new view over here like this. And I only wanted to show the things here that are assignee Max. So it's my fiance's name. and I click save. And so only the things that he's assigned to. So now I can grab that view up the top here. And even if I change things here, I can grab that link. Say if I just said, I only want to show the things and I only want to show open. No, not in this one. I think I might need it. No, I can't remember the syntax for that one. But say I only want to show the open issues, I could do that. And that would give me a unique URL, even if it's not saved as a view. It would give me that unique URL with those parameters. So I could send it to him and say, hey, here are your outstanding items. So that's really cool. So I'll just delete that view real quick. The other really cool thing is this timeline view. Now, it looks a bit sparse because everything kind of happened all over the place with us moving house. But you can see like all these arrows here, show that there's things before and after. So I'm just trying to scroll to one that's got some good. So if we go all the way back, we'll probably see, it's being a little bit slow on the load here. I've got a lot of information in this board. So this shows you here we go. So it shows you built out timelines. You can see along the top here is the date, which is great. So I can see date fields. I can see when things are happening. I can see if my project is on track, things like that. I even did things here's all the things that need money. Here's all the things that require me to call people. And here's all the things that require cleaning because that's not fun. But this project views and using projects is so fun. And I showed this to a bunch of developers who were like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize we had projects in GitHub. I then showed it to a bunch of non-developers and they're like, oh my gosh, I can now build this thing and use it because I don't really need to be a developer to know how issues work. And then I can see what all my developers are doing. So that's what I love about GitHub Project is it doesn't matter whether you're a developer or a non-developer. It's a great way to collaborate across the board so everyone knows what's happening. Say, for example, in GitHub, we use GitHub Project for everything. So GitHub Universe has a project board. The marketing team's looking at it, the finance team's looking at it, the developers are looking at it for the website. Everyone uses projects all the time just to track any type of project we're using, and every single person, whether they're a developer or not, uses projects, and that's why I love projects.
That's fantastic. I mean, that is insane also. But I think I've said to you many times, your life is insane, and I don't know how your fiance is going to keep up with you.
I try.
I know it hasn't changed that much, but code spaces is one of my favorite things. Could you just very briefly talk to that and show us?
Yeah, sure. I love code spaces too. It means you can basically work anywhere, right? So here I've got my code, and say, for example, over the weekend, one of my bridesmaids did some reviews of the website and was like, there's a few things that need fixing. I was like, yep, let me fix them right now. I can do it on my phone. So CodeSpaces is great. I can literally go over here to my website, and I can literally click this button and click create a code space on main, and it will give me a fully integrated development environment where I can code basically from anywhere as long as I have internet connection. Luckily, where I went on the weekend did have internet, and I was able to change all these things on my phone, which was awesome. So it's just setting up the code space here. This is a relatively lightweight code space. There's not a whole lot. I haven't even configured the development container or anything for this, but I can go through and I can change everything. I can see exactly what's happening here. I can it's got a bunch of themes and stuff kind of preloaded if I wanted to. So if that pops up again, so it looks a bit different color, right, to this because I've got a cool funky theme on this one. I could load that theme into code spaces if I wanted to. So every time I open it, it opens up in that color. I could change a whole bunch of different things. You can see here I haven't got a development container here, but I could configure the entire development environment if I wanted to. It's just so great. You can just do it from anywhere. I can use an iPad, I can use a phone, I can use a tablet, I could even use my Nintendo Switch if I really want to open up code spaces and basically just work anywhere on the go and have everything I need ready to go without installing anything. It's awesome.
Oh, I love it because I often mess up my environment locally on my machine because I never remember to do a virtual environment. And so when you open stuff in code spaces, it's all just beautiful and pristine and clean. And you can get all your extensions. So CoPilot chat in there as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I could like install GitHub Copilot in this straight away. Then everything's there. It's great.
Perfect. I do not think that we have any more time to go into other things, so maybe we'll leave those for the Q&A and see what people are interested in asking when we do that. Is there anything that you want to just wrap up with and say this is the thing that you should try if you haven't tried any other things?
Definitely. So a few things is GitHub Copilot Chat is available in public beta. So if you haven't tried it, highly encourage you to go do it. If you haven't tried GitHub Projects, jump on it. It's so much fun. And then the final thing is GitHub Universe is happening later this year in November. So keep an eye out there. That's when we do all our big announcements, all our updates. There's going to be lots of cool things get released this year. And lots of things get talked about. So we've got 3 themes this year. We've got AI, so artificial intelligence, security, and developer experience. It's going to be really fun. So if you have the means and the capacity to go over to San Francisco and be there in person, we highly encourage you to do so. Ticket sales are open now and they're at a discount as well. Otherwise, you can also tune in online from anywhere around the world. And I'm so looking forward to Universe and seeing you all there.
Yeah, it is on my bucket list to go to Universe in San Francisco in person. That would be amazing, but I don't think I could do that this year. So I have already bought my virtual ticket for $0, and it is in my calendar, ready to go. Cannot wait for that.
Awesome, love it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mish. That was amazing. I think we could have gone for several hours, never mind just one. So we'll have to have you back another time.
Happy to come back again.
Perfect. And I want to remind everyone that we're going to have Q&A in a minute. So do type your questions in the chat or have them ready if you want to be adding something in there. After the show, you can watch our videos on our YouTube channel. So do subscribe to the Microsoft ANZ YouTube channel. You can also find all the resources on our GitHub repository, and we will provide the links to you for those as well. Looking forward to seeing you the rest of the season. Welcome back to New Breakpoint.